Scaramucci, if Donald Trump wins and he offers you a position, Chief Bitcoin Officer, do you take it?
We're sending it to the Nakamoto stage for a special conversation moderated by Aaron Arnold of Altcoin Daily. We'll be right back after these messages.
How does the next 5 to 6 months look for 2024? And then through 2025, help us retail participants understand. Dan, you've been trading macro for years. Please start.
Yeah, I think people still misunderstand the economy. Economists keep talking about a recession. If you come down from the ivory tower into a airport, it's packed. The U.S. is ripping, and I think rate cuts, aren't even on the table, meaningful ones. I think rates will be 5% for quite a long time. And if you think about it, the Fed got interest rates so far below inflation, it created this enormous backlog of inflation. They let rates get to minus 800 basis points real rates, which has never happened. Super crazy. And so now they're just normal at 2% real. That's not tight. Like, it isn't tight. There's a ton of inflation. Unemployment's as low as it's ever been. It's going to take a long time to work that out of the system. And the last point would be the Fed created such a massive bubble in everything, including real estate. All houses in America went up 40% in the 2 years they were manipulating the mortgage rate. We're still having record highs in home prices. Like, how can you cut when you're having a record home price prints every month?
So I guess the only thing I want to add to this, and it's really almost like a Dan question, is up against all of that, we have spiraling interest rate costs at the federal level. And so when you're looking at that bullet, and I know Dan's done a lot of work on this, I guess I'm worried about that, and I think the Fed is going to cut rates because they're worried about that as well. And it may trigger more growth, stock market boom. It'll certainly help Bitcoin. But how does the Fed get out of the situation that the fiscal people in our government put them in, where you're staring down the barrel of a $36, $37 trillion deficit?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's a huge problem. I don't see how Congress gets out of it. But the Fed's job is supposed to be stable prices, which when I was a kid meant zero inflation. They bumped it up to 2% now. But it's still way above that. It's 50% higher than their goal. So I don't think they can do anything about the fiscal problem. They have to keep rates high to do their congressionally mandated objective of keeping stable prices. And so, yeah, it's a fiscal problem.
You think we end up in a debt crisis?
I think we are in a debt crisis, and it will never, ever be repaid. Ever. It doesn't have to be repaid. There's no way to get out of this. All asset values go up, I think, next couple of years.
Let's talk Bitcoin. That's why everybody's here, right? We all own a little bit of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin is an asymmetric opportunity, is the name of this talk right now. So let's talk about that now. Asymmetric is the potential upside is significantly greater than the potential downside. Now, Bitcoin was definitely asymmetric when you got in, Dan Morehead. I think Bitcoin is probably asymmetric when Anthony Scaramucci, Gary Cardone got in. But is Bitcoin still an asymmetric bet today, and why? Help educate us. Gary, I'll throw it to you first.
It feels to me like it's asymmetrical. I think everyone's underestimated. These guys have been here a lot longer than I have. I have not met one person that got close to the estimates of the quality or the volume that is rolling into these ETFs. The quality is staggering, and the volume is spectacular. I think when every expert in Bitcoin can miss that volume by 3-4x, I don't think anyone really understands how asymmetrical this could possibly be.
Everybody missed it.
Everyone.
What do you think, Anthony?
So, I'll put it very simplistically. It's an asset class, so therefore it shouldn't trade to the market capitalization of NVIDIA or Apple. It's got to trade to the market capitalization of gold, and I would argue that it's better than gold, so it'll probably trade to a market capitalization above gold. And then I'll just say two quick things. The Jersey City, the mayor just said 2% exposure for the pension fund into Bitcoin. The state of Wisconsin is saying they've got $150 million that they announced last month or 2 months ago in Bitcoin. And we'll be on this stage next year. Someone will be on this stage explaining that the tactical asset allocation models for all institutional investors will have a 1, 2, possibly 3% exposure to Bitcoin. And so when you think about the magnitude of that, I don't see how you don't trade to the market capitalization of gold.
Yeah, I totally agree with Anthony. That's the right way to look at it. We were at Goldman when they did the GSCI, and now everybody thinks of commodities as an asset class, doing emerging markets in the 90s, and now everybody thinks of emerging markets as an asset class. In probably 5 years tops, every institutional investor on earth will have a blockchain team. They're going to have an allocation. It's going to be like 800 basis points or something like that. And the reason I'm still so bullish, and I think it's still so asymmetric, nobody has that allocation right now. Right. This is the first trade smart money missed, right? It's all individuals like you in the audience that did this. Almost all institutions have either 0 or less than 1% of their assets in blockchain. And so it's not only the most asymmetric trade I've ever seen, I think it's the most inevitable trade I've ever seen. Like, it might take longer than we all think.
Right.
It might have some ups and downs, which it does. But basically, everybody with a smartphone is going to be using blockchain in 10 years, right? Like, it's just that obvious. So that's why I still think it is still very asymmetric, because institutions have yet to really address it.
And by the way, Anthony, for the journalists writing about this right now, when you say Bitcoin's going to take the market cap of gold, is that 10 trillion, 11 trillion?
I think, I have my phone on me, I think it's between 15 and 16 trillion right now at current prices. And so Bitcoin is roughly 1.5 trillion, so that's a 10x. I don't think it's going to happen immediately, but could you see a 10x in Bitcoin over 10 years? I do believe that. You'll have at least 1, possibly 2 more halving cycles. It will be embedded. Let me just say this one thing, and I think Dan and Gary would agree with me, because we've been on Wall Street a long time, and we worked at Goldman together. Wall Street is this magnificent selling machine. They get a hold of a product. What do? They pick up the phone, they call their clients, and they explain to their clients why they need to own the product. You know, Dan's mentioning the Goldman Sachs Commodities Index. You were in fixed income. I was in equities. We were both working on that simultaneously to launch that product for Tim O'Neill back in 1990. So just imagine now thousands, tens of thousands of people all over Wall Street picking up the phone to call clients, institutions, on a consultative basis, on a hard selling basis, on a brokerage basis, the asset class known as Bitcoin. You haven't even seen that wave yet, and just watch what happens when the Morgan Stanley financial advisors get a hold of this thing, which is probably coming Labor Day weekend.
You guys worked at Goldman together?
Did separate divisions.
I was going to say, why don't you tell Anthony about crypto sooner?
I was 6'4" like Dan when I worked at Goldman, but I went into politics, so look at me now.
Guys, here's the question, because you said, you know, this to take gold's market cap, it could take 10 years maybe. We don't know. You know, it's hard to put a prediction on it, but why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long for this to happen?
Well, NVIDIA is 25 years old. Like, I think we're being unrealistic. This is very fast. And your marketing has been horrific. Like, everything's been horrific, right? It's been a circus. And you're still at 1.3 trillion. To me, that is a monster indicator that you could have a decentralized message, no consistency whatsoever, tons of tribal issues that look a little circusy, little, you know, housewives of Beverly Hills, and you still have real money coming into this space because they're seeing through all the, you know, the noise. And the noise, I think the noise has actually been a benefit to us. I think I'm buying discounted BTC because this has not been properly promoted and marketed. And to your point, Wall Street is going to sell this. They're going to sell it because they love the fees. And Dan, I agree. It is inevitable. The only thing we're going to miss, are we off 6 months, 18 months? Like, I think it's just a time thing.
The other thing that's happening, which is the elephant in the room, so let's just discuss it. Imagine this Bitcoin conference in 2020 if I said to you that at least 2 presidential candidates are going to be speaking at it, and possibly one was negotiating to speak at it. Just imagine that, right?
I'm glad you brought that.
We're winning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just letting you know, we're winning. Okay, yeah. You know.
I know.
Right?
I just want to say, I think Aaron's question is why I love this trade. We've been doing this for 11 years, and during those 11 years, on average, Bitcoin has doubled every year for 11 years, and he's complaining it's taken so long. That is a great trade.
Well said.
Applause break. Donald Trump proudly proclaims himself the Bitcoin president. Now, regardless of your personal views, I'm not asking you to endorse anybody. I happen to know for a fact there are some Trumpers on the stage, there are some anti-Trumpers on this stage, and there are some people in the middle. But regardless of your personal views, if Trump wins, is that orders of magnitude better for Bitcoin? Or as a Bitcoin holder, how do you think about it?
Oh, shit. You want me to answer?
Oh, shit. That's the
All
best
right,
thing
so
you've said all day. man.
let me say this, and I said this morning on Squawk Box, and I mean this. Whatever my personal disagreements are with the president, policy, et cetera, I applaud him for embracing this technology and for embracing this commodity. I applaud him for it. And I'll tell you something that he's done for this industry, which all of us have to be grateful for. He's pushed the debate, okay? And so it was reported, so I'll share it with you. Mark Cuban, myself, Michael Novogratz, representatives from Kraken. We had a whole group of people, not just Kraken, but others. Mr. Garlinghouse was with us. We sat with Ro Khanna, other members of the Congress, Senator Gillibrand, Anita Dunn from the White House. And I don't think we're having that meeting with the Democrats without Donald Trump. And so I want to applaud the president for that. And I'm hopeful that we can push the Democrats into the swimming pool with us. And I'll just conclude by saying this. It's in the interest of the industry and all the Bitcoin holders out here and people that believe in the long-term prosperity that we can garner from digital assets, that we make this bipartisan. We want this regulation to be propitious and bipartisan. And I think President Trump deserves the credit for moving people into the middle on this.
Scaramucci, if Donald Trump wins and he offers you a position, Chief Bitcoin Officer, do you take it?
All right, so
You'll pass it to
let me
Gary.
just
You'll
tell you
pass it to
something,
Gary.
okay? Let me just tell you something. There is no fucking chance that he's going to do that. Okay, it's not even in the realm. I mean, it may be in a different alternative universe. Okay, but let me say this. Okay, if he offers me any position, I want to be White House Communications Director for one more day, because I sort of feel like that would be an even dozen, and that would complete my political career.
I actually think it's the biggest news in crypto. I think this is massive because if you think about it, the United States literally built the internet, ARPANET, and Congress gave all these breaks to internet companies, all kinds of safe harbors from all kinds of prosecutions and stuff. And they even gave Amazon an 8.25% discount against Barnes & Noble bricks and mortar stores, right? All of the big internet companies on earth are in the United States or the Chinese copies of them. Crypto is the polar opposite. The US government's been so aggressive in doing scary things to crypto companies. 93% of the market cap of crypto is offshore of the United States. That's terrible as a citizen, American citizen, that it should be built here in the US. And so I think the former president changing his views in May is the biggest thing in crypto, because whether he's elected or the other candidates elected, everybody just changed. The SEC was getting an ETF for ETH out within a week. Everything changed. And I really think this is a sea change right now, because now politicians see that crypto is popular. Think about this. The majority of Americans are under 40 years old. They all love crypto, and they vote. And so, politicians can put two and two together.
So I just want to ask Dan a quick question, because Dan was on my podcast right at that time. We both thought there would not be an approval for an Ethereum ETF. So were you surprised by that?
I am, and I think it's a direct result of the May 5th pro-crypto statements by the former president. Because they have futures. I love crypto because you can trade anything. There were futures on whether the ETF was going to be approved or not. And they were trading at 6% chance of an ETH ETF. The president made those remarks. Within a week, they were trading 100%, and it launched and a crypto company's ringing the New York Stock Exchange bell today. That's awesome.
It's incredible.
Is there a specific Trump policy that you guys like? I mean, the fact he's a cheerleader for the Bitcoin industry is awesome. Is there a specific Trump policy you like, or what Bitcoin policies should the president be endorsing and promoting? He's talked about self-custody. I mean, he's done some good ones. He's working with Bitcoin Magazine and Bitcoin Conference. Are those the ones, or what do you guys think?
I think, you know, look, for him to go through the energy complex, he will get this. This will be good for America. There's a lot of stranded assets here that we're still only, there's 23% of the energy behind the pipe in Alaska and America. They're just, it's not efficient. There's not constant demand in some areas. I think he's going to love the jobs. There's 2 or 3 million jobs to be deployed in Bitcoin in the industry. To me, if I'm running this country, the question is, do I want those jobs in Dubai or do I want them in the United States? And to Dan's part on the 9%, this is a really big deal for us. To be able to talk to a politician and say, look, you are not in control anymore. This is the only industry America has not rolled out and controlled across the global complex. And like, you should be thinking about, how do I get to 18 or 20%? Not to 2, and they're fighting it. So other nations are going to take this income. That's what I think. So.
And here's the thing, guys. Maybe presidential federal policies matter less for Bitcoin and more for crypto, but Bitcoin's token economy is developing. Does Bitcoin need to develop? This is the question. Does Bitcoin need to develop a robust token economy to be that asymmetrical bet? Like, if the token economy fails to develop, is Bitcoin's growth capped? Or how do you think about it? Dan, what do you think?
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, yeah, I think it is great that there are really cool projects being built on Bitcoin. Things like Stacks, you know, those are great. But, you know, people sometimes say, you know, what's the killer app of Bitcoin? Bitcoin's the killer app of Bitcoin, right? There's so much wealth being stored, so much savings, so much cross-border money flows. So even if, you know, nothing else gets built on top of Bitcoin, it is an amazing development for the world.
What do you guys think about the token economy? It's the asymmetrical bet, Bitcoin's fine how it is. It's still asymmetrical.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, Bitcoin is developing this robust token economy. Now, there are tokens on Bitcoin. Does Bitcoin need that to be that asymmetrical bet? Is it still an asymmetrical bet if that doesn't develop, or what do you think?
I don't think you need to add any bells and whistles to Bitcoin. It seems to be perfect to me. That doesn't mean that it's not going to evolve. It will evolve, and I mean.
But I think Aaron's making a point that we're all sort of making. Bitcoin is fantastic, but if you can layer on a token economy, in addition, it will go way more exponential. It'll likely surpass gold because we've seen what token economies can do to other coins. And so the question is the technology there, and can you execute the technology on Bitcoin vis-a-vis a token economy? And the answer is yes. But I don't think, and I'll speak for myself, and maybe Dan and Gary will disagree with me, I'm not making the investment for that reason.
Correct.
I'm making the investment because this is sort of the purest store of value. If you study history and the history of money and the technology known as money, this is the purest store of value. And just 30 seconds on this, you know, I'm writing a book for John Wiley called The Little Book of Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor has agreed to do the forward for me, which I'm very grateful for. And I went to interview Peter Diamandis, and he said to me, you remember meeting Hal Finney, don't you? And I said, actually, no, I don't remember meeting Hal Finney, but Peter Diamandis introduced me to Hal Finney. Of course, he was the first person to receive a coin from the Nakamoto wallet. And I met Hal Finney in 2014. Don't tell my children that I met Hal Finney in 2014 because I didn't buy any Bitcoin. But I just want you to think about what they did to perfect this and to decentralize it. And so you don't need the token economy. What you need is for people just to adopt Bitcoin as they are doing and just let it scale. and we'll be sitting here. There'll be a much bigger crowd in 10 years.
1 year from today, we'll all be back on this stage. Guys, let's make some headlines.
God willing. Yep.
We'll all be back, Anthony. Give us a Bitcoin prediction for next year's Bitcoin conference. Hopefully the bull market continues. Gary, we'll start with you. And this is short term. I know you like long term, but please, 1 year from today.
We're looking at price?
Price, yeah. Let's listen. If you don't want to give price, you don't want to make the papers, that's okay. But yeah, 1 year. Give us a prediction.
I think Bitcoin in the next year could go to $2.5 trillion of market cap. And that's the way I like to look at it rather than the price. I like to look at it relative to a NVIDIA.
And so what, like, Bitcoin is what now? What
We're at
basically a
1.3,
double.
so that would be another billion.
Okay.
Another trillion of value. So 30 grand. I mean, and to these guys' point, I don't think you need the cream and the cherry on the top to make an investment decision in Bitcoin. Now, if all the tokenomics, if that happens, we're so underestimating this. Like, I just go back to the ETFs. All these guys are experts. Goldman, Citi, everybody's here studying this, and everybody got it wrong by 3 or 4.
Dan, 1 year from today, what do you think Bitcoin's price will be?
So my standard answer is always double, because that's what it's done on average for 11 years. But actually, I think this political unlock makes me more bullish. So I think it's going to be more than a double, 160,000, something like that.
160,000. Anthony, any?
Yeah, so I'm in Dan. If this is the price is right, I'm going to go 10,000 more than Dan. But I do believe that, though, because if you look at the halving cycle and you look at the supply-demand dynamics, you typically get a 4x move from the halving, and that implies 160, 170. And I think that's something that can very much so happen. I mean, are there geopolitical shocks that could hurt it? Possibly. But I also see Bitcoin decoupling over the next 12 months. So meaning, I don't think it's going to be as tied to the NASDAQ, or it's not going to be as tied to supply shocks like a Mt. Gox or a selling of the German government and things like that.
Let me ask you a fun one. The audience is going to like this. And the ultimate question is going to be, but let me set this up. The ultimate question is, what is the minimum amount of Bitcoin the average person can hold where in the future they will achieve millionaire status? But let me set this up. If you hold about 15 Bitcoin today, you are a millionaire. But let's speak to the everyman. The average male salary in the US is like $70,000. Or even if you make 100,000 or 200,000, you can't buy tens or hundreds of Bitcoin necessarily. Yet, Bitcoin is gaining purchasing power and fiat is losing purchasing power. So what is the minimum amount of Bitcoin the average person can hold where in the future they will achieve that millionaire status? Gary, what do you think?
What time period?
Well,
20 years?
At least 10, I don't know, whatever. How do you think about it? You tell me.
It's hard. Look, I think people are, once they get into Bitcoin, if you buy 0.1 Bitcoin, I think you start looking at your other assets. Like, I sold a house. I'm starting to compare everything in Bitcoin terms. I have a beautiful home, but it's not worth $76 million. Not in any matrix is it worth that. And if I would have deployed that same money 4 years ago, into Bitcoin, it would be $72 million. That is life-changing money for anyone. So that could have been an $800,000 house. It would still be $7.6 million. I think people need to work harder, do more hours, making fiat, which is the best mining on the planet, work 20 more hours a week, and then buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is an asymmetrical opportunity. Yeah, let's give that a round of applause. Develop cash flow by Bitcoin.
It's the old way, right?
You say Bitcoin is an asymmetrical opportunity, and get at least 0.1 if you can, and that will probably achieve millionaire status in the future. Dan, what do you think?
Well, a gallon of milk will probably cost $1 million, right? With inflation. So I think it's more just put as much into crypto as you can, but if it goes down 85%, your spouse still adores you, right? So it is going to happen again. It's a very volatile asset, but just be invested enough that you can hold it when it goes down the next time.